Hello, Clarice.
Hey, it's time for the Get Geekish podcast. That's going to give me nightmares for years to come. It's Bino and my cohort.
Me, Derek.
Yeah.
It's weird. On my side, you pointed the wrong way.
Oh, well, you know, it happens. I'm the one recording it, so the way I point's what matters.
Okay.
Anyway, you guys, if you're a longtime listener of is it the program when you go with the podcast? You know,
Program, something like that.
We're Get Geekish, and we love getting geekish about all kinds of things. We just don't have time to really dive into most of them, but we still enjoy it. So I want to share that love of everything, and one of the things we do every month or so is a little celebrity spotlight. And if you haven't been able to tell by the guests you can see behind Derek over there, we're talking about Sir Anthony Hopkins this week.
Sir Philip Anthony Hopkins, born in 1937. That was a while ago.
I know this sounds a long time ago, but he's a perennial favorite. I think across a lot of different genres of fans. Music, theater, like he's just a very talented man and a very entertaining man. And doing a little research, I learned a lot about him.
Yeah, he's done actually quite a bit. I mean, he's been in pretty much every genre of film that you can think of.
Yeah, when you go just to IMDb, he's credited with as an actor 137 times, 8 on soundtracks, 4 credits as a composer, 4 credits as a producer, 3 credits as a director, 2 more from the music department, and 1 more credit as a writer. So
yeah, he's well versed.
He's got a few talents, we'll say that.
And he's a sir, so.
Yes, he is a sir, an actual sir, and that happened in, 1992, I think that happened?
Yeah, that sounds about right. You have the paperwork on that one.
When I find out, we'll get to that. But yes, he was knighted. But he's actually won a boatload of awards. Obviously, I think for our generation, one of the first things that comes to mind is Hannibal Lecter in... Mm-hmm. And that was a mark that put him on the map. And it's just, as told by the background behind you right now, it's, iconic, if you will.
Well, and the crazy thing about that movie, too, is that he's not in it a whole lot, which is something people a lot forget about because, his scenes, he stands out. They're so iconic. But he's in the movie for, I think, I don't know, like 20 minutes or something like that.
It is not much. I think 29 minutes or 32 minutes. You keep talking and I'll look that up.
Yeah, something along those lines. And I think what set his acting apart in that movie from a lot of other movies and everything like that is the way he brought Hannibal Lecter to life from the book to the screen. And especially with every scene on him, he doesn't blink. Whenever the camera's on him and he's talking, he does not blink.
And that was all ad-libbed. He decided to make it creepier, and it worked. I never really noticed how creepy, if you try and talk to yourself in a mirror without blinking, if you can pull it off, it gets really creepy. As soon as you can get to that 20, 30-second mark, it starts getting really, really just saying. It kind of hurts right now. But 24.52 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
But he had that much of impact to be in that little of a movie and to have that kind of staying power in people's minds. Apparently, he also did a lot of other, I guess you call it improv as part of that role. He was mocking Judy Foster's Southern accent when he was talking about the word Chianti and the slurping sounds that he made. Those were by a writer. That was all just him diving into the character and trying to make it his own and doing what he thinks should be right with it. And I'd say he chose well.
Mm-hmm. It was like that movie. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, this is crazy. And then I read the books afterwards for psychology class. And the whole time I was reading is just him. And I think that's just a fantastic job. And yes, there's been other renditions of Hannibal Lecter. There was, the one in Manhunter that came out before Silence of the Lambs, and then there's obviously the TV show, which I hear the TV show is fantastic, but to me, it's always going to be Anthony Hopkins in that role.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. And it's amazing the kind of work he puts into it too, because as Ray pointed out, is he's well known that when he gets a script, he very often goes over the script 200 or more times because he wants to know it, that he can do the entire script without even thinking about it in order to do it right, which, some people won't put that kind of, even actors in Hollywood. A lot of actors make their mark. Oh, yeah, I can read the script. Once I've got it memorized, I can say my lines. But to actually go over it 200 times to make sure you know exactly what's going on inside that character's mind and how to portray it, like it's a feat. And then when he's done, he says that he doesn't remember the lines. He goes over 200 lines, and then he just completely forgets them, which is bad.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, and especially what you said, 137 acting credits to his name. I mean, I guess you need to learn how to purge.
Start doing some math. You're going to pull out the old abacus to figure that one out.
Yeah.
He also has a slight disability as well. Did you know that he's dyslexic?
I did not.
Yes, apparently that was a bit of a learning problem growing up. When he was growing up, he loved all kinds of art, and he was not a very good student because he liked making art, creating art, drawing, painting, singing, all that kind of stuff. And school kind of wasn't his thing. And he's also a little bit dyslexic, which when he finally became an actor actually worked to his favor because it turns out he had a really, really, really good memory. So his dyslexia helped him actually memorize lines when he was doing acting performances. So take that disability and turn it into a superpower. Talking about.
But I would say, I mean, I don't know. There's just something about, like, there's movies that come out that I'm like, and then I see that he's in it. I was like, all right, I kind of want to see it. One of them was The Rite, where he plays a priest in that one. It's a horror movie type of thing. And, horror movies to me are just a dime a dozen. They're not very good usually. But that one, I enjoyed it because, like, there's just something about him. Like, when he's on the screen, it's just that commanding presence. One of my favorite films of his actually is, growing up, was The Edge with Alec Baldwin.
Forgot about The Edge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, him versus a bear. Come on, man. That's just
Do you know
great.
He worked with that bear twice?
What was the second movie?
The bear's name is Bart.
Bart.
He was in Legends of the Fall and The Edge. Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, yeah.
How many times does an actor get to work with a bear, period, let alone get to work with the same bear more than once? Like, no, this bear, it's a good bear.
Yeah, Bart I feel like Bart the Bear should maybe be your next celebrity spotlight because he's been in a lot of films.
Famous. We could work with that. I like it. So I made up just a short list of some of my favorite Anthony Hopkins movies because some of the ones I like are not necessarily the acclaimed Academy Award winning ones. Big surprise. I've got lowbrow taste in movies if you guys haven't figured it out yet.
Well, yeah, he's definitely been in a couple of stinkers, but
oh yeah, everybody has. But
he's 137 acting.
There's one movie that got a lot of acclaim for it that I thought was an absolutely terrible movie. He did a fantastic job in it, but it was just the movie was not my jam. Was Titus?
Oh yeah, okay.
The premise of Titus,
Shakespearean one, right?
All kinds are wrong, and it was uncomfortable to watch. But probably because he was doing such a good job portraying Titus that I couldn't stomach watching it ever again.
One of the movies that he was in that I really wanted to like because I love the story itself, and then I like him as an actor, but the movie is awful, was Beowulf. It was just like a CGI that was dumpster fire.
That was barf.
But I mean, it's one of those ones where I still watched it because of him, and I've seen it a couple times. But overall, I'm like,
Yeah, and again, not because of anything he did. It just was.
Yeah.
One of the ones that is a guilty pleasure of mine is the old Mask of Zorro.
I was looking at that. I totally forgot that he was in that.
He was the original Zorro, and he was training up Antonio Banderas. And I almost forgot how much I love that movie. I need to go watch it again. Like, just go through. I'm like, oh, right, Mask of Zorro. That was actually a really good movie.
What's funny. It's been on my Vudu wish list for a while, so maybe I should just click buy now.
It's time to pull the trigger. Is that what it is? Yeah. He was in Mission Impossible 2 as a villain, or who's a villain in that one, right? Commander Swanbeck? I don't remember.
Mission Impossible 2?
No.
The crappy one?
I don't remember. There's a list of ones that I remember seeing him in, and like it was he might have been the bright spot of that one because I'm not going to knock the Mission Impossible movies. I'm not a Tom Cruise fan, but I like the Mission Impossible movies. But
the second one's not that good, though.
I can't tell you the difference between 2 through 5. You could just be like, oh, yeah, it looks like Mission Impossible. Okay, we're good. He was the narrator in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the 2000 version of it.
Yep, that's true.
Once I realized that, I could not help that Hannibal Lecter was telling me a Christmas story.
Oh, I forgot he was in the movie with Chris Rock, Bad Company.
Mm-hmm. Red 2, he was in there, which the Red movies, another one that's guilty pleasures of the grandparents of action movies, comedy type things. Like in that one. He's in the Westward TV series, and he was Transformers The Last Night, which he's probably kicking himself for.
Well, okay. You say, yes, Transformers Last Night. I still haven't seen it because you told me how awful it was. And yes, he's in it, and I really wanted to see it. But again, you told me how awful it was, and I didn't want to go through that. But I also have seen him in Alexander. And Alexander's not a good movie, even though I wanted it to be. But again, he was good in it, but it's not a good movie.
That's the same knock on Transformers. There's nothing that he did to make that movie bad.
No.
Very much liked his portrayal of Odin in the Thor movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think they could have cast anyone better than that with his personality.
No, and you're exactly right. And it's one of those ones, too. Remember when they announced the Thor movies, we're like, Thor, really? And then we saw him in it, we're like, Anthony Hopkins in a comic book movie? Okay.
Compute, but I'm intrigued. And it got me going because I go looking through a bunch of the movies he's been in. That's just a tip of the iceberg of movies that I remember watching when I was younger.
Right.
I did a bunch of looking into his social media sites, and he is a ham on social media. He's all over Twitter, posting all the time. He's got a TikTok account where he does stuff, and he's shining, especially during this time of self-isolation.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those celebrities that he lets you in, opens the door wide, invites you in, and shows you what's going on in his life when he's baking stuff, making things, painting pictures, relaxing on the couch, trying to look different in front of a mirror. Like, it's one of the most entertaining feeds I've scrolled through in a long, long time. So if you get a chance, you might want to go follow Sir Anthony Hopkins.
And he's pretty good at the piano, too. And he has a great cat, so.
That is true. Him and his cat do a lot of duetting, if you can call it that.
I think you mean Mew-wedding.
He also won a lot of awards, which, obviously, let me find the exact numbers, because if I just make it up, it's not going to sound quite as impressive. But I think he's been 47 awards or 37.
Let me pull up my old notepad here.
Been nominated for 57 awards and won 47 of them. So you figure for most nominations, you're up against somewhere between 4 and 6 other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to be pulling a 85% win ratio every time you're nominated, that seems like a good one. He also got one of the very, very first Razzie Awards.
For which?
To do Worst Actor for Change of Seasons. The very first Razzie Awards in 1980.
I was going to say, I don't think I've heard of that movie.
Probably nobody has. Oh, there we go. I wrote it down there. His knighthood. No, that was from California. Never mind. He moved to California and became a U.S. citizen in 1990, became a U.S. citizen in 2000, but kept his UK citizenship and his knighthood.
Oh, I forgot he was in that Stephen King movie.
Which one?
Hearts in Atlantis.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's giving me a nostalgia because I like these movies that he's in, but I forgot that he was in these movies, and I'm like, I want to watch them again because they're really good. They're really entertaining.
Too, because a lot of his characters aren't necessarily main characters. Like, he's oftentimes a secondary character, or a partial part of the movie for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like he's a main character. I think just because you see Anthony Hopkins, like, oh, this must be an important character.
Okay, so yeah, we covered that he's Welsh. He's a recipient of an Academy Award, 3 BAFTAs, 2 Emmys, and the Cecil B. DeMille Award. And then in 1993, he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II for services of the arts.
Close. I was close.
92, 93, meh. They kind of...
It does seem weird, like not being in super in tune with British culture. Knighting somebody for their contributions to the arts seems like an odd jump, but I'm glad they do it. But
Mm-hmm.
just the idea of whatever. It's a whole nother story. Fun fact: do you know he used to date Martha Stewart?
What?
Mm-hmm. Martha Stewart began dating Anthony Hopkins in the early 90s after she divorced Andrew Stewart. But she broke off the relationship with Mr. Hopkins. Why? Because she saw Silence of the Lambs and said she couldn't separate him from his But can you imagine that Martha Stewart laying in bed, something like that? Going, oh, Martha. That's it. I'm out.
Do the lambs still scream at night? Oh, man. Especially, since she cooks and everything like that. This would go well with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
So part of me is laughing way too hard that you referenced to Martha Stewart was because she like cooks and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's why.
He also did some fun stuff with Silence of the Lambs, since we just keep coming back to that because it's
one of the more, he's been in a lot of things, but like you said, you say Anthony Hopkins and people immediately go to Hannibal Lecter.
Mm-hmm. But he actually snuck into a screening of Silence of the Lambs. He was hiding in the back of the theater, watched it, but some woman in the audience noticed, so they actually had to pause the movie because it caused such an uproar because she turned and saw him, made a big, huge scene, and everybody freaked out. But he actually just went, bundled up in a coat in the back, and tried to hide the screening of a screening of when it first came out.
To be in that theater, because what would make this woman turn around in a dark theater and stare at somebody long enough to recognize that it's him? Especially if he was wearing a coat and hat and stuff. Like,
it's coming from a guy who can recognize somebody in a band at a show, at a concert, from across the balcony. Hey, isn't that the drummer from that thing?
True.
Talking about.
Okay, yeah. Point.
Just saying.
But still,
wouldn't you like to think that if you'd sat down in the theater and you weren't the one that noticed him, you'd feel like an idiot?
Yeah. Well,
he started shouting behind me, and right behind me was Anthony Hopkins. I didn't know. I asked the dude to pass me his popcorn.
I feel like a lot of people have stories like that, though, where they just missed a celebrity in that way. And I think maybe that would happen with, I don't know, like in a movie, I'm pretty, like, I don't really pay attention to the people around me.
You get there early enough, too. You should.
True. Very, very true. He's one of the top tier celebrities that I would love to actually meet. Actually, I think it's him, Mel Brooks, and then the third one kind of, I don't know anymore, but those two right there, just they're a huge part of me growing up too, because I wasn't allowed to watch Silence of the Lambs, obviously, when I was a little kid, because that movie came out in, 91? 92? I was in elementary school. Not a great school kid-appropriate show. But, I watched other things that he was in, like A Bridge Too Far, because my dad loved World War II movies, so I watched him in that one. And then, of course, Mask of Zorro, my mom loved Antonio Banderas, so that one. And then The Edge, it was just one of those ones that just kind of grew up with him, and he's been doing movies since 1960, right? Something like that.
Started back long ago. He went back to the years for his movie credits, just keep going back and back. And let's see here. He graduated from the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama in 1957. And then he invited him to join the Royal National Theatre in 1965, where he was in King Lear and Madam Butterfly, 1989, West End. 1968, he got recognition in the film The Lion in the Winter, playing Richard Lionheart. So yeah, on the big screen since the mid to late 60s and ever since.
Laurence Olivier is the one that found out about him. That's pretty cool. He was spotted by Laurence Olivier, who invited him to join the Royal National Theatre in London. And then he became his understudy and filled in when Olivier was struck with appendicitis during the 1967 production of August Strindberg's The Dance of Death. That's pretty cool. Can you imagine that? Somebody famous like that notices you and you become their understudy.
Boom. Go outshine him real quick.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You did mention his musical talent earlier, and not just singing with his cat. He's very acclaimed. He actually had a single called Distant Star, they released in 1986, that hit number 75 on the Billboard UK singles chart.
Dang.
And back when he was 19, he composed a waltz called And the Waltz Goes On. Stuffed it away in a drawer for 50 years, and found out later that his wife, who was a fan of Andre Rieu, sent it to the violinist for consideration, and Andre Rieu premiered the piece in Vienna in 2011 and then released it on an album that included the waltz. So Andre Rieu has a Anthony Hopkins composed waltz that was hidden away in a drawer for 50 years.
That's pretty cool. He is just like so talented.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're learning a lot, listener, watcher.
Listeners and watchers?
Yeah.
What else we got here? Before his 38th birthday, he decided to quit drinking. He didn't pick the time, but it chose him, as he describes it.
Okay.
And he says his subconscious came to rescue him from that because maybe he was doing a little too much of it, but he's done some good work since he gave it up. Cheers to that.
Classy. He also seems like he's just got a fun sense of humor about him too. Like, you know, he can play these serious roles. He could play the Shakespearean roles. You know, we've seen that, but then he can also have some fun because like there's some bloopers of him, you know, just kind of like laughing and everything like that. And then, like you said, his Twitter feed, he just seems so kind-hearted, and that you just want him to tell you stories constantly.
And it's his kind of love of life. Like I was reading some of the quotes on him on there, and I'm probably going to butcher this because I read it a while ago and I don't remember exactly what it was. But he takes his whole life is that the best thing in life is to just accept that everything is the way it is. And there's this big smiling picture of him there, like that just fits his personality so much. No matter what's going on, you're like, this is what life is. So enjoy it.
Yeah, I think what it is like he just seems so genuine, you know? Because like you'll see interviews with celebrities where they're sitting there and they're like, yeah, you know, like, yeah, this movie, blah, blah, blah. But he'll sit there like in interviews and just talk. You know, he'll actually engage and have conversations, and he just seems so genuine. And I think that's what more celebrities need to be. I don't know.
From Anthony Hopkins on Twitter from April of 2017. The most powerful, most courageous part of oneself that one can experience is to totally accept everything except life as it is. And of course,
yeah, you butchered that quote.
I got close. I got the meaning down. I got the. And then the next picture on Twitter is him holding his cat with hashtag I love the rain. Like, he's got some of his paintings on display. There's pictures of, I don't know where it was on display at, but he had them up on display somewhere, and it's a picture in front of him. Like, I can't believe I made these, and people want to see them. Like,
I would like to own an original Anthony Hopkins piece. Put that up on the wall. I don't even collect art.
But I want my Hopkins on the wall. I can understand that. I like that. He was actually almost a Bond villain a few times.
I could see that.
He was tapped for the villain roles in for the third Timothy Dalton film that was never made. And
I was going to say, there was a third Timothy Dalton film.
he was in talks to be the villain for it. And then he was the first choice to be the villain in Goldeneye and Tomorrow Never Dies, but he turned him down both times. And then he was also rumored to have a role in Skyfall, but didn't take that one either.
Did he turn him down because he didn't want to be typecasted, or? I mean, if you look at his films, he's played a villain in a few of them.
There was something, I think, right after Silence of the Lambs, he took a couple roles because he didn't want to be typecast. I think that's where some of the range of some of his acting credits come from, because I think he was very worried about that. So to make sure to put himself in some different shoes so people could see different sides of him. But
I mean, let's see. He played Alfred Hitchcock in a movie. He's played a priest. He's played a pope. He's played He's played Odin. My brain stopped. Like, he's played a lot. So yeah, I think it's very. Oh man, he was in Mission Impossible 2, uncredited. Maybe that's why I don't remember him in that.
Dracula, almost forgot about that.
Oh yeah, and Amistad
and the...
He played Nixon. I think I need to have an Anthony Hopkins binge session here.
You got to be careful though, because I guess you go through these movies and you could really screw yourself up watching a few of these movies back to back to back.
That's true. Maybe do Silence of the Lambs and then throw in Thor in there to kind of mix things up a little bit.
Got to keep myself on my toes.
Oh man!
I think if you're listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, what are some of your favorite Anthony Hopkins moments or roles or movies or anything like that?
For a minute there, that you're actually talking about Anthony Hopkins to him, and I was like, dude, if he's listening to this, I'm on Twitter too, Anthony. Sir Anthony, if you could send me some artwork.
Yes, could we have a painting session, drink some root beers, play some chess, and just have a few conversations? I'm in. Let's do it.
I bet he would kick your butt at chess.
No way.
It seems like a challenge.
I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying I'm not bad. I'm not going to go out and throw any shade on Mr. Hopkins' chess ability. I don't even know if he plays chess, but
that's true.
On my own, I'm pretty sure against most folks. Is it a not so humble brag?
Yeah, nice throw in there on that one. But yeah, Anthony, Sir Anthony, if you are listening, thank you. But the other listeners, what is your favorite role? What's your favorite Anthony Hopkins moment? Even if it's not a role, maybe it's like an interview or him on Twitter. Because honestly, lately, if you're on Twitter, follow him. Please do. It is so entertaining.
I would love to see that. If you go to Twitter, Facebook, and then find one of your favorite posts that he's done and then just share it under our post, just comment and put it in the comments. I'd love to see it because from my last couple of days of looking through his feeds, he can do no wrong in my book right now. So I'd love to see some more of his fun things.
And share it with everybody because maybe they don't know how talented he is and how cute his cat is and everything like that. So
I came in for Anthony, but I stayed for the cat.
All right. On that note.
But yeah, let us know. It's been fun. Celebrity Spotlight this week. Get Geekish. Sir Anthony Hopkins, one of Hollywood and the world's gems. Lots of good work that he's done, and I think both of us can agree that he's on our list of one of the good ones that we're happy to have been part of many, many fandoms and entertainment portions of the world. But we'll let you get back to whatever you were doing before you turned on this podcast. But hit us up on social media at Get Geekish, and we will talk at you next week.